Hi everyone, it's Thuan again. Welcome to this episode of the podcast. I think many of you know my real name is Nhung. People started calling me Thuan in 2019 when I began creating content online, and ever since, most people have called me Thuan. Only my very old friends still call me Nhung. So whenever someone calls me Nhung, I feel a special closeness, almost sweet. Sometimes I wonder what my 13, 14, or 15-year-old self would think if I could go back in time and tell her about my life now. She'd probably be shocked, because my past self never planned to become who I am today. When I meet my old middle and high school friends, they still tease me, saying, "Wow, I can't believe how much you've changed." And I agree, I have changed a lot. Perhaps my biggest transformation began at 18 when I started building my online identity as Thuan, creating podcasts under that name. As Thuan, I felt free to express other sides of myself, to openly share my views. I don't know if guys experience this, but for girls at a vulnerable age, when you go from dressing like a tomboy, wearing oversized soccer jerseys and boyish sandals, to suddenly embracing a more feminine, graceful style, loving frilly dresses, we often feel so self-conscious. We'd wear them but stand stiff as a board just from embarrassment. I think that shyness, like Nhung before 18, meant I had very sensitive perspectives but dared not express them. Back then, I was quite cool and aloof, looking unapproachable, not caring much about what others thought. Imagine, with that image, if I wanted to say and express the things Thuan expresses, I'd surely be teased. I was afraid of being judged, afraid of people making fun of me, and that's why Thuan emerged. It's been incredibly fortunate that after a long journey, continuing to do what I love eventually became something that generates income and became my career. Lately, with university entrance exams approaching, many of you have messaged me asking, "Thuan, how do I know what I like? What do I want to do? How do I choose the right major?" I think this is an extremely difficult question because I don't believe there's a single formula that you can apply and instantly know what suits you or what career path to follow. I can't imagine such a thing exists. It seems I've never fully shared my journey of finding a job I love and that fits me. Sometimes, I find that process to be quite magical. In my previous podcast, episode 44, I shared how I lost all my savings and was burdened with a massive debt. So, during that time, I had to work several jobs simultaneously. I was only in my second year of university, with no specialized knowledge in any of the economic fields I was studying. It seemed like only the marketing industry was willing to hire people without a degree or professional experience, training them on the job. Of course, not 100% of companies are like this, but some do accept it. Under the pressure of money, I had no other choice. I had to excel at everything. During that period, I acquired quite a few professional skills in marketing, learning from my colleagues as I worked. In earlier podcast episodes, I always said that was a truly terrible phase for me. I never want to go back to that time. But I am grateful for it. I'm grateful for the hardships I endured, which allowed me to become stronger, gain new skills, and most importantly, build faith in myself. I believed I could do it, and I felt incredibly competent. At that point, for someone new to the profession, I could say I had learned almost all the necessary skills, beginner-level skills, of course, not expert professional ones. I felt quite capable, so I started working and also launched a TikTok channel. I used to say my TikTok channel was incredibly lucky, and it's true that for follower counts to soar so rapidly in the early stages, you need a lot of luck. But I also have to admit that I poured a lot of the specialized knowledge I had learned into it. As you know, my TikTok channel grew, pulling my other platforms along with it. Once Thuan gained a certain following, brands and companies noticed my content creation style. They contacted me for advertising collaborations on my channel, which was one aspect. But what I found most valuable was that they wanted to collaborate with me professionally, meaning they wanted me to work for them. From there, a new path opened up. I started collaborating on media projects. I just kept piecing things together, step by step, creating a larger picture to see everything more clearly. If you asked me how I knew from the start that one day I'd be doing the kind of work I do now, I wouldn't know how to answer. I just kept doing things, and everything came to me, and I followed my intuition. Going back to that question from some students about to take their university entrance exams, asking how to find the right career for them, I think we should just trust our hearts. Start doing something you like. Just take a step forward. As you walk that path, you might fail, or you might achieve some successes. Then you'll gather more information to understand if you're suited for this or not. Gradually, your world will expand, and you'll gain more understanding. With more understanding, you'll know what you lack and what you need. If you lack something, go learn it. If it's a strength, develop it further. It's like gradually completing pieces of a puzzle, and everything will slowly become clearer. I think it's rare for an 18-year-old to clearly know, I will do this job, I will achieve these things, I will have a career that balances what I love, what I'm good at, and what society needs, like ikigai. I don't believe at 18 we have enough knowledge or experience to find that. There might be a few lucky ones who do. They are like exceptional talents, with their parents setting out a development path from the beginning. But I think that percentage is very, very small. If you're expecting me to share some formulas or tips in this podcast to help you know what you need, then no, this episode isn't that. I'm just telling my story. A little over a year ago, there was a period when every podcast of mine you heard was full of melancholy because I didn't know which direction to go, I didn't know who I was, I didn't know what I needed. That was an equally bad phase, a time when I felt like I was no longer myself. I felt like I had lost myself somewhere, and I didn't know what to do. On the outside, I was still cheerful, laughing with everyone, but afterward, when I got home, I'd lie on my bed and ask big questions about my life. Everything was clearly going well, but I always felt like something was missing. It seemed like I had lost someone or something in the process of growing up. I didn't know what it was, and I just felt empty and overwhelmed. One day I talked to Lan. I told her, I don't know what career I should pursue anymore. Lan said, but you're doing the job you're doing right now, you're still working. I replied, this isn't a career. I can't be a creator, a content producer forever. When you're a content creator, you have to accept that one day you'll be forgot. Lan then told me, don't you see you're selling products now? Right now, you're selling the podcast videos you create. Some brands want to buy them for advertising, so that's selling products. Then Lan said, what you're selling isn't products, you're selling skills. What are your skills? Your skills are creating content. Your skills are that you can write, you can produce content, you can plan development, and so on. You have to figure out many things yourself. But the important thing is that you're selling skills, and with those skills, if you don't do this job, you can move to another. With this set of skills, you can continue to work. Skills are something that, as long as you are diligent and hardworking, you will never lose. It's not about whether people forget or remember you. I think that was the moment I truly woke up. I felt like this universe holds many wonders. When my thoughts became clear and I wanted to do something, the universe would conspire to help my wish come true. Once I believed I wasn't selling products but selling skills, then, as I mentioned earlier, some companies and businesses contacted me, wanting to buy my skills. When I was just drifting, unclear, affirming and then denying myself, making decisions I didn't dare to make, doing things and then fearing I'd made a mistake. But then there was a moment, maybe someone said something to me, or maybe no one did, but suddenly a light bulb went off in my head. Everything became clear, and I immediately knew what I needed to do. After that, everything went smoothly. So sometimes I find life has many interesting moments. I'm taking another gap year. Now that I've finished studying, most of my work can be done online, giving me freedom. So I can travel around, see the world, experience life, and still work to support myself. Suddenly, this is the stage where I realize that everything that has happened in my life has a reason. Everything makes sense now. I think if I hadn't been in debt a few years ago, if I hadn't been forced to repay it, knowing my personality, I would definitely never have worked so hard, juggling several jobs at once, and gaining certain skills. The other day, I went to dinner with my colleague. Well, I don't know if I can call him a boss. Let me explain. A company needed a media project, so they hired an agency to execute the plan. Between the agency and the company, there needed to be a third party, and that was me. So let's just call him a colleague. I had dinner with this guy. A few things had happened before that, but long story short, he was quite interested in me on a personal level, completely unrelated to work, as our project collaboration was already done. He's exactly my type, the kind of person I know I'd be attracted to if the timing were right. But the timing isn't right. Before we met, I told him I wasn't ready for a romantic relationship, nor for anything ambiguous or otherwise. I'm currently exploring my new life. I'm very free, my job is flexible, everything is free. I'm planning to travel to new places, and I don't want anything to tie me down, not even a romantic relationship. So it's a shame we didn't meet at a more suitable time. He said, "Okay, then let's just have dinner, talk, and consider it a farewell meal. If fate brings us together later, that'll be a story for another time." So we met. During that conversation, something he said truly surprised me. He told me, "You seem to be quite contradictory, but those contradictions make sense." I was like, "What? What do you mean? I don't get it." He then explained that before working with me, he had listened to my podcast and had a certain image of Thuan. He was very surprised that when I was at work, I was a completely different person, entirely opposite to everything he had imagined. And outside of work, I was yet another person. At that moment, I froze for a bit, everyone, because he had pinpointed something that had been in my head for a very long time, but I hadn't found the right words to describe my thoughts. So when he used the word contradictory, I was like, "Oh my God, that's me, exactly." Then I said, "I don't know either, but it seems like that. Did you know I even have 2 birthdays? According to numerology, I have 2 sets of numbers." He was quite shocked. He said, "So 2 names, Thuan and Nhung, weren't enough. Now you have 2 birthdays too?" I chuckled and said, "See, that's why I'm contradictory. Even according to Eastern astrology, when I get my horoscope read, my birth chart has 2 opposing stars in the house of destiny, completely unrelated to each other." And I thought, oh, that makes sense. Maybe that's why my personality is sometimes a little irrational, a little contradictory. But I think it's not just me. All of us have multiple selves within one person. We choose a specific self and a way of behaving for each person and environment we're in. With family, I'm one person. With friends, another. With a lover, yet another. And at work with colleagues, it's even more different. I think everyone is like that. Regardless, all those versions are still me. Sometimes I feel a bit bewildered and don't know which me is the most authentic, especially when doing those personality tests where you can only answer yes or no. Because I see myself as cheerful and easygoing, but I'm also quite sensitive and easily saddened. Sometimes I feel incredibly strong and independent, but also vulnerable. When I'm in love, I'm passionate, probably unmatched, but when it ends, I'm so rational that my friends always say, "She must be a robot, no human breaks up so decisively." And sometimes I'm incredibly diligent, but other times I'm just like, whatever, let it go, not caring anymore. I just don't know which one is truly me. I think it's been a long time since I felt this kind of interest in someone. In the end, nothing came of it because, as I said, I don't want to be in a relationship right now. That night, after our conversation, I had to go home and write in my diary, talking to myself. Sometimes, being attracted to someone, feeling connected, having those sparks, all of that doesn't necessarily mean love. It doesn't mean you have to be in a relationship with them. If the right time hasn't come, what's the point of rushing into romance? Maybe these feelings just come to help me discover what kind of people I'm attracted to, what kind of person I want to be with in a relationship. Sometimes it just stops there. It doesn't necessarily mean I have to immediately seize that person, catch that signal, and become a couple. If the time isn't right, what good is the right person, right? Then I reminded myself, "Nhung, I beg you, please, please, please be single until you can take good care of yourself. Please be single until you can love yourself, love your life, live independently, and be happy with your own life. Please be single until you know what kind of person you like, what kind of person you want to be with. Please be single until you know your worth, how you want to be treated, and what you cannot accept in a relationship. Until then, stay single." I repeated that to myself 1,000 times. There's a little bit of regret, but deep down, I understand this isn't the right time. Suddenly, talking about being liked and all, I remembered something really funny from middle school. Back then, I was like a bookworm, always just studying, studying, studying. I was in a class with really pretty girls who knew how to dress up early, wore fashionable clothes, and formed a close-knit group, dating the school's hot boys and all that. They were generally very kind, mind you. They never spoke ill of me or anything. They treated me like a normal classmate. But back then, I was so small, everyone. I grew up on K-dramas and romance novels, so I harbored this resentment because I didn't have the main character's glow. I wasn't beautiful or outstanding. I wasn't someone everyone instantly liked, and I didn't have a dream best friend group. My mom and I were very close back then. I confided everything in her. One night, my mom asked me how school was going. I hugged her and cried, saying, "Mom, why doesn't anyone like me? The other kids play together, but they don't play with me." My mom asked, "Are they ostracizing you?" I said, "No, they're not ostracizing me, but they're not close to me. They play together, but they're not close to me." Then my mom said, "Do you want to play with them?" I thought about it and said, "No, I don't really fit in with them." My mom then asked, "Do you feel like you've done anything wrong?" I said, "No, I haven't done anything wrong." My mom replied, "If you haven't done anything wrong, if you haven't done anything deceitful, then there's no reason for you to cry or be sad. Everyone has their own standards for choosing the people who enter their lives. Maybe you're just not the type of person they're looking for. That doesn't mean you have to change to fit in with them. Because right now, your world is tiny. It's just confined to that 8th grade class. But later, when you grow up, you'll pass high school, go to city to study, then pass university, go to a bigger city to study, travel around, and meet more people. There will be many opportunities for you to meet special people like yourself. There will be opportunities for you to meet people who suit you and want to be friends with you. You don't need to change for anyone, if you haven't done anything wrong. I think from a young age, I was taught quite well about respecting my own values and not trying to change myself for anyone. Actually, thinking back now, I realize I was a bit childish back then because it wasn't true that I didn't have best friends in middle school. At that time, I was preparing for competitive exams, so I had a group of friends who studied in the same school class, the same extra classes, and were in the same competitive team. After that, we all got into specialized high schools and have been friends ever since. Back then, I didn't consider that close because in middle school, my definition of a best friend was someone you'd go out to eat and play with far away, travel together, basically like those best friendships in movies. If it was just studying and doing assignments together, it wasn't called a best friend. It was truly crazy. But now, after a long process of us sticking together, I can confidently say they are my closest friends. We see each other more often than family. In middle school, we were in the same class in the morning, then the same extra classes, and studied together at night for the specialized exams. When we went to high school in the city, we even shared dorms. Kids from a remote town moving to the city together naturally became closer than usual. When we took our university entrance exams, we even chose the same economic fields. We accompanied each other during the most impressionable period of our lives. That's why the way we solve problems, the way we think, is incredibly similar. Now, each of us is in a different place, some in Vietnam, some abroad, some in Hanoi, Saigon, Da Nang, Hue, but I always feel happy to have them in my life. People often talk about the pain and inconvenience of long-distance relationships, but I think long-distance friendships are equally heartbreaking. There are so many times I just wish I had a magical door so I could be with my friends, even just for one day. Times when I or my friends need each other, we could instantly be there. Or, please, airline tickets, be cheaper so we can meet more often. And I realize that growing up means having a few friends whom you might only meet once a year or every few years, but I'm always okay with that. And every time we meet again, we never feel awkward or distant. We can still be comfortable with each other as if we'd never been apart. We're always together, even if not physically present, always accompanying each other through every life event. Even if geographically separated, we always share life together. Just recently, I went to Hue for the grand opening of my friend's new bakery. Well, she calls it a bakehouse. This is a very, very close friend of mine. The day I went for the opening, the owner had to say a few words, give a small speech to the guests. Hearing what she said, I almost cried. Because this bakehouse represents a long journey, my friend had to try so hard and leave so much behind to build it, to complete it. As she put it, she finally found a place to take refuge, a sense of safety to start something new. I think more than just delicious pastries, my friend's bakehouse has many stories behind it. Since I'm not the owner of this place, I don't want to share too much. If you ever visit, you can ask her to tell you the story. But yes, it was a long journey, and she is someone I deeply admire. I admire her journey of finding herself, finding what she loves, what she wants to pursue, and deciding to see it through, even though almost no one supported her. Building this bakehouse was not easy at all. Securing the capital to open a bakehouse at such a young age is incredibly difficult, and most of us come from ordinary families. My friend had to work so hard, saving up bit by bit to open this shop. And the journey wasn't just difficult when she opened the shop. From the very beginning, when she decided to follow this path, she didn't get much support. In high school, she was on the national student team, and everyone, family and friends, envisioned her attending a top university and then working at a top company. But suddenly, my friend took a gap year, choosing paths that almost no one else took, figuring everything out by herself, and finally discovering something that made her happy, something that allowed her to be herself. It was a long journey, spanning several years, transforming mere ideas into reality. I felt both sympathy and immense admiration, and I just wished, please, life, be gentler with my friend this time. Please let her succeed. She has endured too much. Well, I won't say more about her story. Otherwise, if she hears this podcast, she might get angry because I've said too much. The journey of self-discovery is a long one, and I don't think it ever truly ends. By the time I achieve what I want, I might have already changed, perhaps no longer interested in that very thing. Everything just keeps evolving. When I think I've put all the pieces together in one puzzle, that puzzle itself becomes just another piece in a larger, different picture. Everything just continues to unfold. I hope that both I and all of you can gradually enjoy this journey, embracing even the uncertainty and vagueness. Somehow, these things will pass. And finally, I hope life will be gentler with us. And even if it isn't, I hope you will be gentler with yourself. Not everyone is born at the starting line. Not everyone knows and understands their life perfectly. All of us are striving for a better life, to build a more hopeful future, a more beautiful life. And I always hope that no matter what, we will always be happy. Thank you everyone for listening to the podcast until this point. Goodbye and see you.